A 21-year-old gunman killed 9 members of Mother Emanuel A.M.E. Church in Charleston after worshiping with them in Bible study class. It was a horrific hate crime, perpetrated by a gunman with white supremacy beliefs who said he wanted to start a race war. In the aftermath, Governor Nikki Haley led a successful legislative effort that took down the Confederate flag from the State House grounds in 23 days. But now that the flag is gone, where do we go from here? All this and much more today on A.M.E. Woman Magazine. Well, a lot has happened since our last show. A lot of it, unfortunately, has been very tragic for South Carolina. The world really has grieved with our state as we saw and witnessed 9 innocent lives taken by a murderer, really, at Emanuel A.M.E. Church last month. And now the flag coming down. And we'll get to all these issues, but I want us to talk at least a little about this alleged killer, Dylan Root, 21 years old, murdered 9 innocent people after praying with them for an hour. You know, some people say that he's insane. Others say he's just evil. What do you think?
I think both.
You think both?
I mean, that to go into a church and sit there for an hour, or any place for that matter, and gun down 9 people in cold blood. I think there has to be a little something mental going on there.
I agree, but I do want to make the distinction. I don't think he was legally insane.
Okay.
I definitely believe he knew what he was doing. He was there with a purpose, and he carried that purpose out. So I agree with you. He was insane, but he was not legally insane. And certainly he was full of hate.
Yeah.
He was full of something. There has to be something that's off-centered for a human being to be able to do what he did, especially after sitting and praying with them. There had to be some level of insanity or something that's out of his mind to be able to do that. And hatred can drive you to that. Hatred can drive you. Hatred is also an energy. It can really kill people, literally kill people, not just with guns. So we have to look at that. This is a 21-year-old man, and you wonder, what could he have learned in those 21 years to be able to carry out something as horrific as that? And so I'm still baffled about that. Just really, what could he have been thinking, or what driven him? I personally think there's more to the story than what we're being told, and I don't think he acted, totally alone.
That's what I was just about to say. I think he's part of the KKK. I'm sorry. He does not seem that bright to carry that out. And then the fact that, I feel like God was giving him another chance, to, don't do this. Sat down, prayed with these people, and they're innocent. I mean, it wasn't like at a club. It wasn't at, like kids his age. These were like people in the church. I mean, respectful people in the community, and he just gunned them down. And I don't think it was like he was set on a mission.
Yeah.
That's my
my
personal
grandmother
opinion.
used to say, when I was little, and I used to hear her say this all the time. And it's whenever somebody did something really bad, she said, they got the devil in them. And I used to think, what a weird expression. But you know what? I really believe, I don't think he was insane. I think he really calculated and knew what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
He made a choice, and he had a good time to think about it, an hour of praying to think about it. And he did it anyway. There was rumors that said that he told them when one of the youngest one, Kwanzaa Sanders, said, "You don't have to do this. Don't do this." And he said, "I'm going to shoot everybody." you know, and it was like this was what he was set out to do. So if you believe, to me, and I guess I've aged into this, if you have a belief, a Christian belief in God and salvation, then you have to also understand the power of the devil and evil. And I think he's evil.
And I will leave that to you. Let me clarify, because this happened on a Wednesday night. I remember, I think a lot of us were shocked to wake up to that news Thursday morning. It just so happened one of our senators, Lindsey Graham, was on, I think it was The View, one of those talk shows. Looks kind of like us.
Trying.
One of those copycats. And obviously he was there to talk about his presidential bid, but because of the events that surrounded, the focus was mainly on what had happened in Charleston. And one of his nieces had attended school with Dylan Reed in the 8th grade. And she had mentioned that even then, he was a little off, kind of like you were saying. So, and that's something we've seen with a lot of these gunmen in Columbine, the guy that was just at trial this week for shooting up the movie theater. It's funny how their peers are able to kind of say, wasn't quite right, a little bit strange, a little bit of a loner.
Quiet, but then they also said such a nice guy. Those were the reports I heard, that he was a nice, quiet young man, and one of the guys said he'd been over to his parents' house. It was a black young man that was his friend, and they never would have thought in a million years that he would have reacted and done something like this. But the reality of it is, if you have something purposed in your heart, no matter what, and he said he almost changed his mind because they were so nice to him, but he was on this mission.
Yeah, he had an agenda.
For me, that is the definition of evil. I don't ever want to meet that. I don't want to try to analyze that. I don't want to try to figure out what his motive is, because you can't, there's no logic to that. I mean, what logically can you say to excuse that?
No, but I feel they should find out the root of it, because
who else is involved?
Yeah, because we don't want this to happen again. And I mean, what it did was really, it brought to light how evil, like, those the supremacy groups are. It's really,
and how brainwashing it can be.
Sure.
Absolutely. How brainwashing. I'm like you, 21 years old. I mean, where did that come from at 21 years old? How do you get like that?
Well, he wasn't a highly educated person. And there's no record of him attending school past the 9th grade, which he had to repeat. And,
But a lot of people don't make it out of high school.
Right. And
there's a generation of folks, many of them in my family, who didn't make it out of high school. He was intelligent enough to write that manifesto that made, gobbledygook, but it was written in a way that didn't sound like he was totally illiterate. So he knew. I mean, this was the person who calculated and knew. And sometimes we don't want to face that people could be that horrific, that evil particularly at such a young age. I mean, we got a vision of what we think that kind of evil should look like, and it's not him, And but that. That was evil.
And lack of education doesn't necessarily mean that you don't know right from wrong.
Right.
Just you may not be able to
that's
count.
That's not what I was saying, but maybe we'll circle back around to that maybe when we get to the flag. And I'll tie in that discussion that I had earlier this year.
But I think you made an interesting distinction. You said you think he's insane, but not the kind
legally
of insane, not legally insane.
Right,
and
exactly.
as an attorney, tell us the difference.
Right. Being legally insane is that you don't know what you're doing. It's clear that he knew what he was doing. I mean, he planned it out, he thought about it. He sat there for an hour, and I just can't understand how you could sit in Bible study for an hour and nothing touches you in an hour. Scary.
Okay, there's much more that we can talk about with Emanuel A.M.E. 9. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
If I got to go to college, oh my goodness. I like discovering new things. You get to see what works for you and what doesn't. That helps you evolve as a person. You get to make like a supernova of skill or talent or whatever it is. I've always wanted to go to college. I just feel like that's my destiny. My name is Queen, and I am your dividend.
Welcome back. The debate in the South Carolina House passed without amendments. The Senate's bill to remove the Confederate flag lasted more than 13 hours. In the end, a clean bill passed and the Confederate flag was removed the next morning after flying at the State House for more than 50 years. Some in South Carolina see the Confederate flag as a part of a proud heritage. Others see it as a symbol of hate. How do you see it, ladies?
It's hard for me not to see it as, it's like someone's hanging out a very big, ugly, "You're not welcome" sign. Everywhere I see it, I know that I am not welcome. I feel unwelcome. I feel like don't stop there. I feel like keep driving. I feel like you're going to run into trouble there. I feel like you might not be safe. So I don't know what's worse, to feel that it's hate or feel fear from it. But I honestly feel like that's the era that I grew up in. You don't fool with people that's got that flag, you know, because they could be dangerous. So I, whether you call it hate or whether you call it fear, I call it a symbol of something that's not representative of America. And it shouldn't fly anywhere in a public place.
Certainly. I agree.
Okay, well, when I first moved to South Carolina from New York, I was shocked when I saw that Confederate flag. And I called my friends. I said, "Oh my gosh, there's a Confederate flag." And I mean, I can't, you know, when I see the Confederate flag, I think of KKK. That's, you know, that's someone from New York. I mean,
No,
you know,
someone from the South thinks that same thing.
and I don't think that, you know, like for some people it may be, you know, a symbol of pride, you know, and that's a delicate, you know, situation, but it really represents so much pain. I mean, the pain of slavery, having been a slave, or you can't go here because you're black, you can't get a job because you're black. I mean, it's just terrible. And to have it hanging on the State House, where we're supposed to go there for freedom or for justice, and then you see it there, it's like, I can't believe that it was ever hanging in the first place. I mean, you know, like after everything, but
50-some years.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it either. I mean, that has been up at the State House for as long as it has. I mean, I've been fighting for the last 15 years to get it down, ever since 2000, and there was some sort of supposed to be reconciliation of putting it at that monument, and it truly wasn't. I mean, it was to the point where we didn't have a choice. It was either keep it on the dome or have it at that monument, and it was very unfortunate. And I just don't understand. I really don't understand, you know, the people who say that it is heritage and it needs to fly. I almost feel like they don't care about African Americans' feelings. I really, it's so offensive, and it's universal among African Americans how offensive it is, and it's just like, it almost feel like they don't care. Let me give you for example, I don't understand how Native Americans feel when they do not like that tomahawk chop at FSU, you know, that whoa, but I've got enough respect not to offend people. So I don't even get into the heritage versus hate. It's offensive. So why, as a South Carolina citizen, do I have to go to my State House and be offended? I have been practicing law for 23 years. I have been to that State House twice. In that State House, because I could not get past looking at that flag. I went one time because my best friend Michelle Childs became a judge, and I went and I said, Michelle, I'm gonna go in there. But I mean, I talked to her, and I love you, and I do want to see you elected. So I went. And the second time, I can't even remember, but I'm sure I was forced. But I mean, that's how much it hurt me to see that every day. And I would even go around and not go down Gervais Street, not to see that flag. So I am just astounded it has taken us that long. It just amazes me.
Well, let me speak to it, because 15 years ago, I felt very differently. I was a flag supporter and defender. I do feel like it was a symbol of heritage, And so tensions were high on both sides of the aisle. I was working at the State House during that time when all the debate was going on, when the votes were being taken, when the protesters were there every day. I was there that Saturday when the flag came off the dome. And, you know, I've just been thinking about this show tonight and what I would say. And, you know, I had some people reach out to me and I said, you know, it's a good thing. It's time for it to come down. And I know that there have been a lot of hearts that have been changed, people who have been moved, and whether it be because of the Emanuel, and I've seen people on the other side question it, and I just want, you know, if this is what you've been fighting for 15 years or longer, does it really matter what brought about that change of heart? As long as we're all on the same page saying this has got to come down off of our State House grounds. But I thought back to a couple shows when we were talking about Ferguson, when we had a little disagreement.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when you are talking with somebody about an issue and you're listening to them, but you're not really listening to them, because what you're doing in your mind is you're formulating your rebuttal.
Right.
Yes, but you say this, but this is what it means to me. I'm trying to get you to accept my position. See, I'm not really listening to you. And I think having grown up a lot in those past 15 years, I don't like the fact that groups like the KKK adopted that flag and it became a hate symbol. But the fact is, they did.
But Donna,
And it makes it offensive to other people. And, you know, we talked about the Christianity thing in our first segment, and I thought about that verse, and when Jesus was sitting with his disciples, and they said, you know, what are the greatest of the commandments? He said, you know, love your Lord your God with all your heart and all your might, and
Love your neighbor as you.
and so I had to say, you know, if it's offensive to my neighbor, if it makes them, it doesn't matter that it has nothing to do with me. It doesn't matter that that's not what that flag represents to me. It needs to be about what it represents to them. I need to hear them. And so that was a big part of my evolution.
well, how did your mind change? I'm interested, because when I speak with people who support the flag, I mean, they're adamant about it. I mean, it does mean something to them. So what conversation or what happened to make you change your mind on that?
Well, a lot of it was, and I know y'all know that I work in politics, some of it has just been over the years, every time, you know, there is a national presence, a presidential debate, and this or that, they're just throwing it in our face, Confederate flag, I just get so tired of hearing about it. And I have a lot of friends that work in economic development, and they said, you know, we look like rednecks to people all over the country. We look like X, Y, and Z. We have this flag flying.
Yeah, we did.
And, yeah, so it's a little bit of that.
That's how they perceived us.
They
Yeah.
really did.
But mainly, you know, what I just explained to you about just coming to that realization of, no, this isn't what it represents to me, but I need to be respectful of the people
We see it differently. Yeah.
that have
Good.
experiences like what you
Yeah.
described.
Yeah.
And so if you want to wear your flag on your t-shirt or put it on your truck or fly it at your house, but you're right, that is our State House grounds, and it belongs to all of us, and it should represent all of us, and it was time for it to come down.
And excuse me, I was just going to say, and I hope they do wear it on their shirt and on their cars, because I noticed they wear it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. 'cause
I need to know that,
for us,
because
it's like a warning sign.
it's a warning
Yeah,
sign
it's a
to African Americans. It
Yeah.
is, because it
They-
creates, as Wendy said, it creates fear. It really does. I mean, if I were to walk into an establishment and saw the Confederate flag, I couldn't.
I'm out.
I'm out. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would be afraid.
Yeah.
I would really
You're out
be
of there,
afraid.
because
So,
you never know.
You don't know
feel
where
like
the
what will
mindset-
people do to you. You know.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an eating establishment.
Oh,
What will
yeah.
they put in your food? I mean, that's how basic it is
Yeah.
for most African Americans. They really feel that, I guess you might call it traumatized from the experiences that our grandparents and some of our parents and some of us have gone through as a result of that flag being, as you say, maybe misused, and that's a whole nother conversation, but we'll we'll talk maybe in the next segment.
All right, with the Confederate flag gone from the Capitol grounds, what's next? We'll give you our take after the break.
Together now, we can make it better now. Come on.
Moving a little and eating better every day can help make you and your child healthier. Search We Can to find out more.
Well, no one will question that what happened on June 17th was a horrific tragedy. But now that the Confederate flag is gone from the State House, what's next? There are some groups that are suggesting removing Confederate monuments, renaming buildings, streets, etc. So, are we trying to deny or erase our history?
I don't think it's about erasing history. What I think is we've evolved beyond the history that doesn't represent the totality of the state. And I think that's what we're looking at. It's not, legacy could be history, heritage could be anything, such as you can do something that you're not very proud of. Do you still want that to be remembered? Do you want to still celebrate that? And that's what I look at about the Confederate flag in the battle. It represented something that I think that was horrific. I don't understand why people call it their heritage. I think it's really hate masquerading as heritage. So I think until we really get deeper and deal with the fact that we cannot move forward as a state, as a people, and still talk about erasing history. Evolve beyond a history that no longer serves us as a people. And let's create a new history that does represent who we are today. So that our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren can celebrate something worth celebrating. And because a certain group of people celebrate, others have to be offended. Let's create something that we all can be proud of.
That's good.
I get the Confederate battle flag because there are a lot of hate groups, specifically the KKK, that adopted that as a symbol, still use it as a symbol of intimidation. But does a monument or a street name, is it really that offensive?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Ben Pitchfork Tillman is very offensive. He was a person, Donna,
Listen, I know about Pitchfork.
okay, all right, who lynched black people, who killed black people, and we have a monument very prominent on our State House grounds and to emulate and admire, and people take pictures, and I don't see anything this man did. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen what he did as a governor, but I know about his racist past, and it's very offensive to emulate again on our State House grounds someone such as this
and
man.
is that what we want to celebrate? Is that who we want to be known as a state, as a group of people? Do we want to be remembered for something as horrific as that? That's horrific.
But you know what? I guess I'm a little bit different in this respect because we had this conversation, me and my husband did at home, and he looked at me kind of weird too. But the monuments, the street name, I'm for truth.
Yeah.
I am for truth. So those monuments, if he was once the governor, if they need to have that on the State House grounds, let's put the truth under his monument.
Okay.
Let's put what he really did.
Yes.
Right.
Let's put who
I'll
he
agree to
really
that.
was.
I agree with that.
And if we are willing to do that, then I'm okay with it.
Me too.
Because it's in its historical perspective.
Absolutely.
But for us to put it up there and make it seem as if he's not who he was, and for folks who may not be as familiar with his history to believe that, wow, he was governor, he was great.
Yeah.
He couldn't have been but anything
That's
but
right.
great. So, and I'll say, people might say that's ridiculous, but it's not, because when
Oh, no, I
Essie Mae
think that's
Washington
good.
Williams
Yeah.
came out about being Strom Thurmond's daughter, guess what they did?
We put it on the
Right.
monument.
Put it on that monument, because that was the truth.
Right.
So we need, if we are willing to put the truth up, then
Right.
let the monument stay where they are.
Absolutely.
Keep
I
the street
agree.
names where they are.
I'll
But
do
if
that.
we
I
are not,
agree to
if
that.
we are not willing to have the truth, a historical representation of the truth, then we need to take it down. And I think that would solve a lot of the because I think a lot of people, Donna, honestly, Jessica, everyone, I think a lot of people really don't know, some of the stuff that man did, And so we need, if we're going to hold these people out to be the kind of people that we ought to respect and revere, then put their true history up.
That's right.
And let people decide for themselves.
That's a good compromise.
That is.
That's
That's
good
you
compromise.
comfortable with the truth. Let it stay. And you know what, Charleston? I was amazed when I was much younger than I am now, like in my 20s or 30s, and I would visit Charleston when they used to have the slave, you know, the slave quarters kind of. It was like a shopping area, and I thought to myself, my God, how did they made this into a tourist attraction, and it's known, renowned all over the world. They embraced the true history, and as a result, what happened for African Americans is that we flocked to Charleston. Because that history for us was lost. We didn't know much of who we are as a people was destroyed. We have to look in cattle, you know, how people sold property to find out who our ancestors were. So that became a point in our pride, really, even though it's a painful past. And Charleston is one of the #1 cities in the world. If they can do that because they embrace the truthful history, then we ought to do the same. We ought to put the truth on every last one of those doggone monuments, and if they're not willing to put the truth up there, then take it down.
I think it's just a slippery slope. You know, that, like we talked about, that flag was a symbol of hate adopted by racist hate groups specifically to intimidate blacks.
So was slavery.
A street name named after a general. They're talking about sandblasting the Confederate generals off of Stone Mountain now, and it's
They just made the blacker what they
opinion.
really were. And I'm serious, because if people are serious about heritage and history, then let's tell the truth.
Well, we talked about the devil earlier, and we've talked about the events of the day, and I just want to say once again, back to our conversation a couple months ago, I mean, I have never been prouder to be a South Carolinian than in the aftermath of what happened at Mother Emanuel.
Yeah,
I mean,
the way the people respond.
Those families taught us all about grace and forgiveness, because believe me, I wasn't anywhere near that.
Yeah, we still aren't.
Right. I mean, I'm still not, and I think, you know, the devil had some work to do, and he was surprised that love won out.
Oh God!
So he said, well, what can I do to get everybody stirred up? So here we are with the flag and the monuments and this, but one thing our governor has been steadfastly focused on is, you know, let's keep our attention on these victims and on these families, and the example of grace that they gave to all of us. And one of my friends, Senator Tom Davis, from down there in the Low Country where Senator Pinckney was from, he just said, you know, he talked about the Confederate flag coming down as a reciprocity of grace.
But y'all, you know, that completes our show today. That completes our show today. Well, until the next time,